Hello everyone, welcome to BODHI. My name's Alex Nashton and this is Christopher Yates, who, in case you guys didn't know, has a broken thumb. So he will not be demonstrating every single pose to its T, but instead offering some modifications. I'll make sure that you guys know what you should be doing in the event that you have very working that's not the right way to say that. Okay, in the event that you have thumbs that work right now, Chris does not, so he will not be doing the things that I say necessarily. Okay, we're gonna be moving through a 60-minute beginner's foundational flow class. So for today, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have 2 blocks at home. If you don't have 2 blocks, don't worry about it. You use whatever you've got handy. I find that those old DVD sets work pretty well, or some shoe boxes, or even just some really thick textbooks. And then you're gonna wanna be sure that you have a blanket or a pillow nearby, just because that we spend some time on our hands and our knees, and when we're not really familiar with these kinds of positions, it tends to be a little tender for different joints in the body. So make sure you have some extra cushioning, and then get yourselves ready, because it's gonna be a very entertaining class with myself and Christopher Yates. You can feel it. I can feel it. It's gonna be a good one tonight. Go ahead and lie down on your backs to start. And then on your back, you are going to bring the soles of your feet to touch and let your knees fall apart like the pages of a book. And so normally when we spend extended periods of time in a position like this, we would ideally want to find blocks underneath the knees, but today we're going to be working with a little more activation in the legs, working to strengthen the pelvic floor, to stabilize the pelvic bowl and the sacrum. So for today, no blocks, no blankets underneath your knees. It's quite all right if they're hovering in space. They most likely will be. And then you can take one hand to your belly, one hand to your chest. You can also optionally let the palms of your hands face up beside you. That's cool too. And then you'll close your eyes. We'll take 3 deep breaths in and out, just to clear the slate, to let go of the beginning part of your day. You'll take 2 more breaths in and out, just like that. And 1 more. And now you'll let your breath find its new normal. You'll let your breath find its new kind of ebb and flow. And with that, you'll bring your attention very specifically into the soles of your feet. You'll take a breath in here. And then as you exhale, you'll press the soles of your feet into each other as firmly as you can. You inhale and just relax a little bit more. And with each exhale, you press the soles of the feet really firmly into each other. You inhale and soften. You find a little more ease. Exhale, the soles of the feet squeeze together. You inhale and let it go. And so you're just going to do that a few more times here. And the reason why we're starting with this is because we are going to work to open up the hips a bit more today than we have been in these practices. And that first is really, really important, to be sure that we are stabilizing the pelvis before we get into the opening. Chris is laughing at me because I can't speak tonight. What is grammar? Anyway. So still pressing the soles of the feet together, especially if your name is Chris Yates. And be sure that as you're finding that pressure between the soles of the feet, that your face isn't going red from working so hard. I know that you guys can all see here through the camera that Chris, his head is looking more like a tomato than a shape that holds a brain inside. Okay, so next time you exhale, you can let all of that go. And then you'll slide your hands down to the outer edges of your knees, draw your knees up so the soles of your feet find the ground, and then you'll walk your feet a little bit further away from each other and let your knees come into touch. And for a moment, just let that kind of move your hips in the opposite direction than the one that they were just going in. Take a moment to feel the space in the lowest part of your back, in the back plane of your pelvis. And then from here, you're gonna slide your knees just far enough apart that they're inner hip distance apart. And you'll walk your feet inner hip distance apart as well. So now both the knees and the hips are both inner hip distance apart. The knees and the feet. I told y'all it was gonna be a very entertaining class tonight. I think we should count how many times I misspeak. I think we're up to 3 now. Okay, so 3. The knees and the feet are inner hip distance apart. And you're gonna cross your right ankle over your left thigh. So you're making a figure 4 shape with your legs. You're gonna flex into your right foot, so all 5 toes of the right foot draw back towards your shin bone. And then try to press your right knee forward towards the back of the mat. Or towards the top of the mat, depending on how you are laying on it. I think that counts as 4. Lack of clarity in the directions. So from here, if this is already feeling like enough of a hip opener for you, you can definitely stay. Otherwise, you can interlace your fingers behind your left thigh and draw that thigh in closer towards your chest here. I'm gonna demonstrate that one because, like I said before, Chris has a broken thumb, so sometimes these things are difficult for him. But he seems to be managing just fine at this point now that I'm picking on him. So make sure that your right knee is pressing forward towards the top of your mat and that the back of your pelvis stays glued down, that the back of your pelvis stays on the ground, your sacrum stays flat. You try to pull your shoulders back into their sockets away from your ears because you'll probably notice that we all kind of tend to let the shoulders creep forward here as we reach forward. I can see myself in our TV here, and I think with the microphone pack in my back, I look totally hunchbacked right now. It's so creepy. Shoulders are coming back into their sockets. You'll take another breath in, and then you'll exhale and release your left foot down. Right foot will come down as well, and then we'll take it over to the other side. So now left ankle crosses over right thigh. You make a figure 4 shape with your legs. Your left knee moves forward in space. You flex into your foot. Good, and then maybe you keep your knees here, maybe you keep your legs here, maybe you interlace your fingers behind your right thigh and draw that thigh in closer towards your chest. So making a figure 4 shape with the legs. The sacrum stays glued down. And now you might notice here that with that figure 4 shape in your legs, that the length of your waistline on each side kind of starts to shift and change. So we really want to be sure here that the left waistline is just as long as the right. So continue to pull your left hip away from your left armpit. And be sure that as you open your left hip, you're not lifting your right butt cheek up off of the ground, but instead your right butt cheek stays anchored down. And that just helps us find a little more stable base of support to open into the pelvis, to open into the left hip. Chris is nodding in agreement because my instruction is so clear now. Take another breath in. And then exhale, release your right foot down. Release your left foot down as well, and now bring both knees into your chest. Give them a little squeeze, and then circle them around a few times in one direction. From there, you'll circle them around a few times the other way. And then we'll come into a happy baby, and it's gonna be a pretty gentle happy baby just to first get into this portion of the practice. So you're gonna bring your knees down in the direction of your armpits, and note that that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll completely get there. But with knees coming in the direction of the armpits, you're either gonna hang on to the backs of your thighs. Maybe you can reach up and catch hold of your ankles. If this is a pretty easy position for you to be in, you might even reach up for the pinky toe sides of your feet if they're accessible for you, but know that that's not necessary. We're still warming the body up again. Very similar to the last position, the back of your pelvis, your sacrum stays flat on the floor, so you anchor it down. If anything, there's the tiniest bit of space between the lower back and the floor. So maybe just enough space between the lowest part of your spine and the floor that I could slide the palm of my hand beneath you and the ground. The reason why we would do that is to maintain the integrity of the spine, to maintain its natural arches and curves, and make sure that we're truly getting into the hips, that we're truly opening them in a way that is conducive to their spaciousness rather than shutting down the rest of the body. Chris is having an eyebrow spasm over here. They just like keep lifting up at me in disapproval, I think. Okay, go ahead and release your feet down. And then from here, you can just very gently roll yourself over onto one side, pressing down through your hands. If your thumbs are working, you'll ease yourself up onto all fours. So your wrists are going to be under your shoulders, your knees are underneath your hips. You're going to tuck your toes under and then step one foot and then the other foot forward between your hands. So you're coming to stand at the top of your mat. Very nice. And so once you're standing there, you'll probably notice that the backs of Chris's legs are straight, but I want you guys to start with a bending your knees. Yeah, good. And now many of us tend to keep the neck activated and strained here. So Chris, can you demonstrate that for me? Yeah, I don't want you guys to look forward here. Instead, let your head hang heavy. Let your head relax down like a rag doll. You really let it fold here. You let go of any tension in the upper back. You let the rest of your spine traction here by keeping the bending your knees. And now similar to Chris, you're going to hang on to either opposite elbows or opposite upper arms. And with that bending your knees, you're going to very gently sway your upper body. You'll sway your torso from side to side. And note that if stability, if balance is a little more challenging for you here, you don't have to keep your feet so close together. You can actually separate them a little bit further apart. Let your toes relax. Unlock your jaw. And then go ahead and release your arms, release your hands down. Look at your feet now, and very intentionally make sure that they're inner hip distance apart. If you need to measure that out, if you're not quite sure where exactly that is, you're gonna take your two fists side by side between the highest part of each inner arch. And that'll approximately give you the right proportion. That'll approximately give you the right distance between your 2 feet. Once you've got it, you're going to let your arms hang heavy. Again, let your arms relax. Take a breath in here and a breath out. Another inhale and exhale. Now bend your knees even more. Think about sitting your butt down and back just a little bit lower. Take your hands to your shins and try to reach your heart forward. So with deeply bent knees here, you work to find a flat back. Yes, exactly. So a long spine here. And know that many of us tend to find some rounding in the lowest part of the back. So Chris, can you show me that? Yeah, good. If you're finding this rounding in your lower back, I want you to bend your knees even more. And then I want you to think about tilting your pelvis forward like you're trying to booty pop or twerk here. So your pubic bone reaches towards the back of your mat. Your sitting bones revolve up towards the sky, exactly like Chris is showing. Such a beautiful twerk. Take another breath in here. And then with your exhale, you're gonna lengthen out the backs of your legs and let your upper body completely relax down. You'll shift a little more weight forward towards your toes, a little less on your heels, and then engage your thighs so your kneecaps pull up. Beautiful. And then we're going to move like that a few more times just to start to warm up the backs of the legs a little bit more. So as you inhale, you put a deep bend in your knees, you sit your butt down and back, take your hands to your shins, reach your heart forward, so coming halfway up. As you exhale, you lengthen the backs of the legs, let your upper body round and relax down. And then we'll do that a few more times. So inhaling to bend into the knees to find that arch. You exhale and fold, the upper body relaxes down. And so you'll keep going. You inhale to bend the knees, you lengthen your spine and arch. You exhale, let the backs of the legs get longer, go ahead and round. A few more times just like that. And as you do, I invite you to bring even more attention to your breath here, even more attention to the combination of your breath with this movement. Because ideally, we're letting the pace of the breath set the pace for the movement. So each time you inhale, you open the front of the body as you lengthen. Each time you exhale, you lengthen the back body and round. You use each breath in, you use each breath out to accentuate the rhythm that the body is naturally moving through. Good. One more. Nice. Okay, this time as you breathe in, you're gonna sweep your fingertips all the way around and up to the sky, come to stand all the way up. And then with your exhale, you'll bring the palms of your hands down to touch at the center of your chest and pause there. We're gonna take a moment just to break down Tadasana a little bit more. So you can let your arms relax down by the sides of your body and take a moment just to look down at your feet and make sure that your feet are still inner hip distance apart. If you need another way to measure them here, you can swivel one heel into the opposite big toe mound, and that'll kind of give you the right proportion, that'll kind of give you the right distance. And then keeping your big toe mounds where they are, you're gonna hide your heels once again behind the widest part of your foot. So if you can still see your heels looking straight on, then you haven't hid them enough. Then you need to adjust just a little bit more. Another way that you can kind of map it in the soles of the feet is to draw an imaginary line from the space between your second and third toe down to the center of each heel. And then to parallel those two lines with the two side edges of the mat. So if you were here, you're gonna need to turn the heels out. If you were here, you're gonna need to turn the heels in, but that's just gonna help you find your own anatomical neutral. And now with it, I want you to think about engaging your thighs. So you lift your kneecaps up your legs. Your tailbone is gonna lengthen down. Your pubic bone in the front pulls up. And with that, you'll find just the slightest bit of engagement of your lower core, so your belly button pulls in and up as well. Many of us here tend to flare the rib cage forward in the front. Chris, can you show that? So we tend to flare open the front body. So I want you guys to think about hugging bottom two ribs in towards each other and lifting up through the backs of the lungs, lifting up through the back of the rib cage a bit more. But as you do that, make sure that your shoulders aren't creeping up by your ears, that your shoulders stay nice and relaxed down your back, that your collarbones are spread wide apart here so that they're not collapsed down, but they're open and spacious. And now the last little piece, many of us, because of technology, tend to jut our chins forward. We call it tech neck. Instead, can you bring your chin in ever so slightly towards your throat and think about lifting up higher through the back of the skull? And there's your Tadasana. So close your eyes for a moment and give yourself a second just to get really familiar with it. This might be the most important pose that we do all class long because it's the pose that we spend most of our time in over the course of the day. And right, many of us tend to stand like this or like this. And in all of these ways that tend to kind of lead to even more misalignment and discrepancy between right side body and left side. But we want to work to find balance always. So next time you breathe in, keeping that engagement in the lower body and in the torso, you're gonna breathe in and sweep your fingertips around and up to the sky again, right? Without flaring your rib cage forward, without sticking your butt back. Tailbone is down, bottom two ribs are in towards each other. You exhale and dive yourself all the way forward and down, letting the backs of the legs lengthen. This time, keep the backs of the legs long. Breathe in, take your hands to your shins and find a flat back. Exhale, backs of the legs stay long. You let your upper body relax down. Inhale, reach your arms all the way around and up to the sky. Come to stand all the way up. And then exhale, palms of your hands touch at the center of your chest. We're gonna do that again. You inhale and reach the arms around and up. Exhale, dive yourself forward and down. Inhale, hands to your shins, lift yourself halfway up. Exhale, release forward again, Uttanasana. Inhale, arms sweep all the way around and up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, palms of your hands come to touch at the center of your chest. Inhale, reach up again. You exhale and dive forward and down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward again. Inhale, reach your arms all the way around and up. And exhale, hands to your heart. Okay, we're gonna pause here. And with it, you're gonna shift your weight onto your right foot and step your left foot way back behind you. And now you're gonna bend into your right knee. You bend into that front knee. So the knee comes to a 90-degree angle, right? The knee is directly over the ankle here. And now you're gonna drop your back heel, your left heel down, so your toes are facing the side edge of the mat. Now you're gonna turn your torso to face that same side edge of the mat and stretch your arms out into a T shape for a warrior two. So keep that bending your front knee. Yes, good. The front knee is still bent. It's bent to 90 degrees. Now, I know that for some of you, this is going to be a lot in your right thigh, which means that it's totally fine if there's an incline here for now. But as you get more and more familiar with the shape, as you start to build strength, you're actually going to want to lengthen your stance just a little bit more and work to bend your knee in such a way that the knee can stop over the ankle, with the thigh becoming more and more parallel to the ground beneath you. Beautiful. And so in this shape in particular, we're not working to booty pop, we're not working to twerk, which means your tailbone needs to lengthen down. You reach your tailbone down towards the floor, your pubic bone, your belly button, your chest all lift up towards the sky. Your gaze is gonna be over your right fingertips, over your front fingertips. And we wanna keep the eyes focused in that one singular direction, because we know that when the eyes are moving, the mind is too. Take one more breath in here. And then with your exhale, straighten your right leg. Walk your left foot in a little bit closer to your right foot, so you shorten your stance just a tiny bit. And now arms are gonna come out to that T shape again. You're gonna reach your right fingertips forward, tilt your hips back, and then eventually let your right fingertips come down to either your shin, maybe to the floor. If you have a block, you can definitely grab a block, and if it's not quite accessible to you, go ahead and use 2 blocks. That's often really, really helpful here. And now most of us have a tendency to kind of lose our stability here in triangle pose. So make sure the big toe mound of your right foot stays plugged down towards the floor, that it's not lifting up off of the ground. And in the back leg and the back foot, I want you to really focus on rooting down through the pinky toe side of your left foot so you can lift up through the inner arch. Nice. And once again, we're not booty popping here. Instead, we're finding containment. So tailbone lengthens down, the pubic bone zips up. Is there a problem?
I thought this was Brazilian. This was a Zumba class.
This is yoga, Zumba, twerking and yoga. Yes, look at that. Brilliant. Okay, go ahead and bring yourself all the way back up. And then you're gonna, from here, if there are blocks in your way, you're obviously gonna wanna set the blocks aside, but you're gonna turn your right toes to face the same direction as your left toes. And then we're gonna take it around to the other side. So now the left toes turn to face the back of the mat. You bend into your left knee. Your arms come out to a T shape. And really do your best to be sure that the wrists are level with the shoulders. They tend to kind of do wonky things here, but we really want to work to keep them level as we can. And if you want to give me a little shimmy here, you can. Exactly. Okay. So remember that it's quite all right if there's an incline in that front thigh. If you need a little bit more intensity, if you feel, okay, I think that's 5 now. Yep, that's 5 times that I've stumbled over my words. You can walk your left foot a little further forward and deepen into your bend so your thigh is parallel with the ground beneath you. And remember, we're balancing front and back planes of the body. So pubic bone lifts up in the front, your tailbone reaches down in the back. Take another breath in here. Jazz hands, Chris. Jazz hands. And then you can straighten your left leg. And then you can shorten your stance just a bit. So step your right foot in just a little bit closer. Your arms come out to that T shape once again. And then your hips are going to tilt back. Left fingertips reach forward, 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 and then they come down to either the shin, to the floor, maybe even to blocks. For the sake of today, it doesn't really matter whether the blocks are on the big toe side or pinky toe side of your front foot. Just choose a side. And focus more on making sure that the shoulders are drawn down the back away from the ears here, that you're not squished up here, but that you give yourself space. The left hip pulls away from the left armpit so the left waistline gets long. And then you're anchoring down through the pinky toe side of your right foot to lift through the inner right arch. The big toe mound of your left foot stays glued down. You take a breath in and a breath out here. Inhale, bring yourself back up to stand. Beautiful. And then you can move your blocks out of the way and turn your left toes to face your right toes once again. And we're going to switch sides one more time. So this time you're going to turn right toes to face forward. Bend into your right knee, warrior 2. You're just going to take one breath in here and one breath out. And I know that from this angle, you guys probably can't see what Chris is doing in his right knee and his front knee, but he's letting that front knee drop over to the left. And that's a really, really dangerous place. It's a really vulnerable place for the knee to be in. So make sure that your knee stays on the same trajectory as your toes. If anything, make sure that your knee is kind of pressing over to the right. Good, we're gonna take another breath in here. And then with your exhale, you're gonna place your right forearm down on your right thigh and reach your left fingertips up towards the ceiling. Look at that grace. She is beauty. She is grace. She is Chris Yates. Okay, so many of us tend to collapse into the right shoulder here. Can you show me that, Chris? Yeah, we don't want that to happen. So make sure you're pressing down through your right forearm to lift up and out of the right shoulder. Beautiful. The left fingertips are still extending up towards the sky, and you're still working to find balance between the front and back of your body. So now pubic bone pulls up towards your chin again. Your tailbone lengthens down towards your left heel. Take another breath in. And then with your exhale, you'll slowly pull yourself back up to stand, straighten both legs. Arms can relax down for a moment. You're gonna turn right toes in, left toes out. Bend into your left knee, open your arms out to a T shape. And then make sure that your left knee is not collapsing over towards the right, but instead you keep that knee on its own trajectory. So if anything, you press your left knee to the left. Good. Rather than letting the hands kind of hang limp here, you're going to keep your fingers extended. Very nice. Take another breath in here. And then exhale your left forearm down onto your left thigh. Right fingertips extend up towards the ceiling. Good, and once again, you're not collapsing down into that left shoulder, but you're lifting up and out of it. You press down through your forearm so you can find space between your left shoulder and your left ear. Good. And now make sure you're still breathing here, that there's still this very equanimous, balanced inhale to exhale. We'll take another inhale, another exhale here. One more breath in. And then exhale, draw yourself back up to stand. And then you're gonna turn your left toes in, and this time you're gonna step all the way up to the top of the mat. And you're gonna widen your stance just a little bit further apart than what we have been. You're gonna turn your right toes at about a 45-degree angle to the right, your left toes at about a 45-degree angle to the left. You're gonna try to keep your knees moving in the same direction as the toes. So many of us have a tendency here to let the knees kind of knock in towards each other. I don't know if you guys can see that well over the internet, but instead, can you try to keep your knees revolving in the same direction as your toes? So there's this action of you pushing your inner thighs forward and drawing your outer thighs back. Good, and now as you inhale, you're gonna reach your arms around and up, palms of the hands come to touch in a prayer overhead. As you exhale, you begin to bend into your knees, sit your butt down as low as you can. Now, if all you've got today is resting your forearms on your thighs here in a camper pose, that's fine. But you can also work to drop your hips all the way down towards the space between your legs, a little bit closer to your heels for malasana or for a squat pose. Now, if your heels are lifting up off of the ground, which Chris is going to demonstrate right now, if it's hard for you to get your heels down, then I'm going to invite you to slide a block underneath your seat so you can have a little extra support. Yeah, good. Enough that the soles of the feet can come completely flat down onto the floor. Your chest stays lifted. Your elbows are pressing into your inner thighs or pressing into your inner knees so you can elevate your chest. And you're elevating that chest without squeezing your shoulders up by your ears. You're actually going to keep your shoulders moving down your back. Nice. Take a breath in here. And a breath out. Another inhale. Another exhale. Okay, good. So from here, you have some options. You can either very, very slowly, using the strength of your core, just sit your butt down and back behind you. Or if that just ain't happening today, you can take one hand to the ground in front of you, one hand to the ground back behind you, and ease your butt down onto the floor. If you're sitting on a block, you're obviously gonna need to slide that out of the way. Good, and now soles of the feet are gonna find the ground. We're gonna take a moment just to strengthen our core just a little bit more. So go ahead and hang on to the backs of your thighs for now. And for a moment, just grabbing onto the backs of your thighs, you're gonna pull your chest up towards the sky. And with it, you pull your shoulders down your back away from your ears. So once again, the collarbones are spread open. Your chest is lifted. Your gaze is somewhere out in front of you. And now you're gonna start to shift your weight back onto your butt a little bit more. So trying to stay balanced on your sitting bones. You might even kind of tiptoe your feet in a bit closer towards you. And then can you work to lift one shin and then the other shin up off of the floor? Now, many of us tend to let the knees kind of flail apart and flail open here, but try to keep your legs inner hip distance apart here. And know that the ground is always there. If you'd rather take your hands back behind you, that's a really good option. Another breath in here. And then you exhale and release your feet down. Take a moment just to curl your spine, to round your back, hanging onto the backs of your thighs. Your hands on the backs of your thighs, Chris. So you're kind of leaning way back here. Yeah, good. And then as you inhale, you're gonna shift your weight forward, pull your chest forward and up, almost like you would arch, like a cat pose. And then as you exhale, you lean way back, letting your spine round, letting your chin curl in. You exhale. You inhale and bring yourself forward again. Exhale, lean back. Inhale, forward again. Exhale, lean back. One more inhale, come forward and then pause. We're gonna do that one more time, Navasana or boat pose. So you tiptoe your toes in, And then maybe you lift one shin and then the other shin up off of the ground. So ideally here we're working to get the shin bones parallel with the floor beneath you. Now if you're finding yourself totally curled under and rounding here, I'd rather have you keep one foot at least still on the ground so that you have stability, so that you have support. Chris is being a little ambitious here. I'm not going to advise the rest of you to do that today. Take another breath in. And then exhale, release your feet down onto the floor. This time, soles of the feet come together, your knees are gonna come apart. You're gonna grab onto your ankles, and as you breathe in, you pull your chest forward and up, working to find an arch in your back body. As you exhale, you're gonna let your spine round, let your chin curl in, press the back of your heart towards the back of the mat, Chris. So we're similar to what we were doing before. Let's start counting how many times Chris does something that I don't tell him to do. I think we're on 2 now. Inhale, pull your chest forward and up, arch your spine. Exhale, you curl in and round. You inhale and arch forward and up. Exhale, curl in, round. One more time, inhale. And then exhale, pause. You're gonna bring your knees back up again. Soles of the feet find the ground. You either grab onto the backs of your thighs or optionally your hands can come back behind you. You're gonna lift one shin and then the other shin up. And now with the feet lifted for this last round, you're squeezing your belly button in towards your spine. You're working to get your heart up higher. Shoulders draw down your back away from your ears, and maybe you work to reach your fingertips forward towards your toes. Maybe just one hand. And then switch, or maybe both at the same time. Either way, try to keep your heart lifted, your collarbone spread wide, your shoulders away from your ears. And then exhale, release your legs down, take your hands back behind you, and this time you're just gonna very gently windshield wiper your knees from side to side. Nice. Okay, so coming back to center, the soles of the feet are together, your knees are apart. You grab onto your ankles and slide your heels in nice and close towards your groin. Now, for many of us, especially for those of you that are beginners to the practice, when we initially come into this position, there's a tendency to kind of let the weight of the body be back here on the sitting bones. And we want to make sure that we have an arch in the spine. And so you might need to elevate your seat up on a pillow or up on a blanket, which Chris is going to demonstrate. He's opting for a block, which might be a little too much here. 3. So elevating your seat up on a pillow or a blanket, it just enables you to tilt the pelvis forward more. So we've spent a lot of this practice working to pull the pubic bone up towards the chin and lengthen the tailbone down. And in this shape, I want you guys to think about the opposite. So think about pushing your pubic bone down and lengthening your tailbone back. So again, you take the rounding out of your back body and work to put a big arch in its place. Holding onto the ankles, you keep that arch in your back body and just begin to take your heart straight forward. So moving straight forward, straight forward. Again, we're not trying to go down here. We're not trying to round. We're just moving straight forward, which might not necessarily mean that you get very far, and that's totally fine. It's helpful if you can continue breathing here. I have no idea what Chris is laughing about this time, but I'm going to count that as 5. And then you'll slowly ease yourself up again. And this time, you're gonna slide the soles of your feet a little further away from your body, so you're making more of a diamond shape with your legs now. And for this one, I do recommend that you have your blocks somewhere nearby, that you have your support somewhere nearby. We're gonna start with the same lengthened spine that we did a minute ago. So sitting up tall, working to find an arch in your back body as much as you possibly can. Guys, I don't know how I'm so hilarious, but this kid cannot keep it together right now. Okay, so keeping that arch in your back body, you're gonna begin to bring yourself forward. When you get to that point where you can't maintain 6, the arch anymore, you're gonna let your upper body relax down. I don't know why Chris thinks this is so funny. He usually doesn't need 2 blocks underneath his forehead. But many of us do, and that's not something to laugh about. So my recommendation is that after you get to that place where you can't maintain the length in your spine anymore, you give yourself the opportunity to round, but using blocks as support or using pillows as support, finding something underneath you to kind of cushion yourself. We have a lot of fun over here at BODHI. Make sure you check out our other classes. Try not to fidget with your toes. Yoga is torture. So if you don't need as many blocks as I intentionally put out in front of you, you can go ahead and maybe set one aside. And if you need more than what I gave you, you can definitely use it. Okay. It's important that we laugh at ourselves in practices like these, that we're not taking ourselves so seriously. I think that really is the best medicine, is to kind of eliminate the seriousness. So let's go ahead and lift ourselves back up. Move your block fortress out of the way. Grab onto the outer edges of your knees, draw them up until the soles of your feet find the ground again, and then take the palms of your hands back behind you and let your knees windshield wiper from side to side again. Good. And then you're going to pause with the soles of your feet on the ground. You're still in center. And now you're going to reach your fingertips forward and pause there. So soles of the feet stay on the ground. Really do your best to keep the soles of your feet flat on the floor. Oh, and I should mention that if you were seated on a pillow or a blanket, you might want to scoot that out of your way. Sorry to backtrack, everyone. So soles of the feet are on the ground. You're reaching your arms forward. And now try to keep the soles of the feet on the ground like someone was standing on your feet. Belly button squeezes in towards the spine. You keep your fingertips reaching forward, and one vertebra at a time, you lower yourself down onto your back. Okay. Onward with our programming. You're going to walk your feet in so that your ankles are beneath your knees. Again, feet and knees are inner hip distance apart. So you have a better idea of what that feels like at this point in the practice. Once you've got it, you're going to press the palms of your hands down on the floor beside you. Press down through the soles of your feet. And note that many of us tend to let our knees kind of fall away from each other here. At least that's what Chris is doing right now. You're going to want to keep your inner thighs squeezing towards each other enough that you keep your knees balanced over your ankles. And now pressing down through the palms of your hands, pressing down through your upper arms, pressing down through your feet, you're going to lift your hips up towards the sky. Good. And so you lift them as high as you can. And all the while, you're working to lengthen your tailbone down towards the space between your knees and pull your pubic bone in the front up towards your chin. Breathe. Make sure you are still breathing here. Inner thighs stay squeezed towards each other enough that the knees are balanced over the ankles. And then you exhale and slowly release yourself back down. Good. And so from here, you're gonna bring the soles of your feet together, let your knees come apart, but this time we're gonna find some support because we are gonna stay in it for a while longer than we normally do. So blocks underneath the knees. You might even wanna find a pillow underneath your head. And I'm gonna give you guys some time to stay there. As you do, you can either let the palms of your hands face up beside you, or you can optionally bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your chest. So now we're working to open the hips once again, but in a way that is a little more restorative, in a way that enables gravity to do more of the work for us. So your most important job here is to let go of control as much as you possibly can. How much can you let go? And you'll notice that the longer you stay here, the greater the impulse is to move around, to fidget, to wiggle, to get out of it. But through each of those impulses, can you still choose to stay? And I'm going to give you guys a little more time there in quiet. And now you have a little bit of time to either stay here in this position for your final resting shape, or to optionally straighten your legs out in front of you, let your arms face up beside you for Shavasana. And Chris is demonstrating that position in case you're unfamiliar with it. In that Shavasana, you close your eyes. You let your toes fall away from each other, your knees kind of fall away from each other, the palms of your hands face up. 7. Your fingertips get softer and kind of curl in towards the palms. You let your eyes close. The weight of the eyelids heavy. And to feel any lingering tension just kind of slipping off of the muscles of your face. You give yourself some time to rest. And stay in observation of the easiness of this last shape. Now begin to deepen your breath. Begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Start to wake yourself back up again. Gather your knees into your chest and roll over onto whichever side you'd like. And pressing down through one hand at a time, you'll bring yourself up to any comfortable seated position. You'll let your hands rest on your thighs, and we'll end with a short meditation practice. And the goal in this meditation practice, like any practice, is not to stop the thoughts from happening, is not to eliminate the fluctuations of the mind, but instead to cultivate a level of awareness that we can see very clearly the thoughts as they rise up, seeing them through to their completion, and then watching as they pass away. Now, normally we have a tendency to identify with them, to get swept up in them, to perpetuate them. But my encouragement for you here is to continue to keep your space from the thoughts, to keep that step back in that place of non-judgmental observation, bearing witness to all of it and judging none of it. We'll stay here just a little bit longer. Bring the palms of your hands to touch at the center of your chest. Let the technique go and release your chin down in gratitude for all of the effort you've put into the past 60 minutes. Thank yourself for being here, for being a part of this community, for laughing and twerking and playing with us. Namaste.